Sims, let's go.
Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Miracle Sims, and you are watching the GSL Talk Show. Tonight, we're going to be talking to author Joseph M. Leonard and friends. This dynamic conversation you do not want to miss. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the GSL Talk Show. I'm here with Mr. Joseph M. Leonard. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, and yeah, that's right. It's Joseph M. Leonard. It looks French. It's not. It's actually Polish. It was Leonard Orłowskiowicz or whatever at some point, and got chopped to Leonard. Leonard without an O. So I have to make that distinction because there is another author, Joseph Leonard, out of one of the Carolinas, North or South Carolina. I can never remember which. I've reached out to him. He never gets back to me. I don't know why, but so yeah, Joseph M. Leonard, no O in Leonard, or as you can see on the screen, aka J. Leonard Detroit, across virtually every social media platform that exists.
Awesome. Nice. Well, appreciate that. Just so we can make sure, we got to get you in particular. So I appreciate that, feedback and whatnot. Tell us where you are and a little bit about yourself, Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, I'm in the Detroit, Michigan area, a southern suburb, Wyandotte, actually, named after the Wyandotte tribe. Born and raised in this area. I'm not fond of the winters, but, family, friends, I choose to stay. I've been writing my whole life. My dad, Ted Leonard Jr., had Ted Leonard Jr. and the Polka Kings, and you can still find their albums out there. So I dabbled in music in the 70s and 80s, but not polka music. But I never got a record deal. So, I just wrote other things then, continued writing poems, short stories, novels, and then in 2022 finally released a couple internationally. The others were, just more or less local type stuff. So.
Well, cool. Look, it sounds like you've been busy around here, especially in the writing world. About how many things have you published thus far?
Well, I'm the holder of 3+ dozen copyrights. I have 3 books now internationally. The first release last year was Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You. And while that may sound scary, it shouldn't be. It's not a Rambo kind of blood and guts shoot 'em up. It's an intellectual movie, and I like to say yes about terrorism, but not a book about death, but life and living, because it's about Martin, a Detroit newspaper man who decides to write a book about terrorism. Hence the terrorism thread. So it's really about following him, his life, his family, his friends. It's about life over death, hope over fear, faith over despair, love over hate, good over evil, individualism over collectivism, freedom over tyranny, family and friends, life. It's not about death. It's all about life and living. And then my second internationally published book, How to Write a Book and Get It Published, Hints, Tips, and Techniques, because I'd go on a lot of shows to talk about terror strikes coming soon to a city near you, and they'd say, why don't you come back and just talk about writing and publishing? And I'd say, sure, of course, I'm more than happy to do that. Well, after a dozen of those, I went on the internet and saw, of course, there's a bazillion books, how to upload your book onto Amazon, right? How to use the Amazon KDP services to publish inexpensively. Well, that's not what people are asking. That doesn't help you conceive a book. Doesn't help you write a book. Doesn't really tell you what all your potential publishing options are. And while 80% of all books are indeed sold through Amazon these days, do you not want access to that other 20%? Of course you do. What are the options to reach those people? Then after you're published, you're not done. You've got to promote, right? Like we're doing here today. I'm here to promote.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's a bazillion books a year, you know. So it's very crowded out there. The chance of someone just stumbling upon your book is slim. You know, you've got to get in front of people to let them know it's there. And then now, just Friday, August 11th, I dropped my third international book, Christitutionalist Politics. Christitutionalist, trademark pending, which is Christian-based U.S. constitutionalism. Because I kind of dedicate it to several people. First and foremost, Jesus, of course. It's a Christian book, right? But influences in my life, my father, Ronald Reagan, who said as president, don't bring me something left or right, liberal or conservative, or Democrat or Republican. I want to know, does it lift people or does it lift government? Because he was about wanting to limit government and empower people. So I was always impressed by that, you know, paradigm thought. And also having Dennis Prager, had a brain fart there for a second. Dennis Prager of PragerU often makes the distinction. You can't lump all the left together. Liberal is different than leftists. There's classical liberals and then there's leftists. They aren't really, they are the same in some respects, but they are a world of difference in other respects. So I thought, yeah, I like that idea of a new paradigm. So I thought, reach out to fellow Christians. You know, put aside the left-right, the liberal conservative, the Democrat Republican, because the minute any of those terms comes out of someone's mouth, usually you get a knee-jerk emotional hysterical reaction, right? I wanted to focus on us as Christians, our commonality with the Bible, voting biblically, hence the term Christitutionalist. So that it's not an automatic pejorative. It's a term like people, you know, they don't immediately have a harsh positive or negative reaction. It's I've not heard that. What is that? Right? So then you actually have an opening for a conversation, whereas otherwise, liberal, conservative, you're automatically button heads because people have been, you know, trained into that, right? To have these emotionally hysterical reactions rather than use our heads.
Honestly, everything you shared, all your books sound amazing and interesting. So it's like, I know we can go so many places at this point.
Well, the other thing about how to write a book and get it published, hints, tips, and techniques is, now obvious that, you know, that you or somebody or two in your audience probably has a book in them. So obviously that's for them. But 99.9% of people would have no interest. Well, you should still have interest. If you like reading at all, here's why. Think of how to write a book and get it published, hints, tips, and techniques, not as a help guide, but a tell-all book. But I don't drop the names of Kardashians in it. You know, think of it as a behind the scenes. What does an author go through? You've got books on your bookshelf. How did they get there? Well, obviously you bought them, but how did the author write it? How did it get published? How did it get onto your bookshelf? So think of it that way. And I forgot, I wanted to say at the top of the show, I'm definitely having a blessed day today because I've already seen a miracle. But yeah. I can never pass on a bad pun opportunity.
Oh, wow, I appreciate that. Look, the pun accepted, man. No, yeah. So I mean, well, I get it, man. Like you said earlier, you got to be promoting your stuff and everything like that. I say that all the time. You know, always be promoting. So I'm here for it. You know, obviously, we have a lot of entrepreneurs come here and share and stuff like that, and so it's been a blessing. I know people.
You've got to be your number one salesman, and I know that's tough for some people. Again, my dad had a band. They traveled throughout Northeast Michigan, Northeast United States, all over. So it was normal and natural to me that, well, doesn't everybody get up on a stage and say something or do something? So, but others, I understand, have that fear, you know, of speaking in public and speaking to an audience. I've never had that.
I'm grateful to you.
So I have no problem tooting my own horn.
I mean, if we don't toot it, who's going to toot it, you know?
Right, exactly.
Sometimes. But yeah, so I mean, well, like I said, all of your books sound amazing. I mean, I have a question for you, I guess, based on the third book, right?
Sure.
What do you think about the phrase that people say that Christians shouldn't pay attention to politics?
Oh,
or shouldn't be involved.
The absolute perfect question, and exactly why I wrote the book. In fact, there's actually another mentor and an idol of mine too, by the name of Neil Mammon, and he wrote a book years ago called "Jesus is Involved in Politics. Why aren't you? Why isn't your church?" And I always thought, yeah, I'd like to write a book about like that someday. And I did. So, you know, this people get this idiotic notion. They hear the phrase separation of church and state, right? Mm-hmm. That's nowhere whatsoever to be found in our founding documents. Zero. What it was a letter from Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson, in response to somebody inquiring about the First Amendment and freedom of religion. Not freedom from religion, freedom of religion. But just that the United States was founded in a way that it would never have an official federal church. Like England has the Church of England. It is the official church of that kingdom. We don't have that. We all have our own individual rights to our own faith, our own religion, and the freedom to exercise thereof, or to not. But you don't have to be religious to understand our laws based on, you know, the Bible still make sense. I like to say of Penn and Teller, you know, the magician comedy team. I love them. They're great. But Penn is a world-renowned, infamous atheist. But, you know, he's not a bitter, angry kind of atheist that hates people who have faith. He recognizes, you know, the biblical tenets are common sense. Even if I don't believe in a God, they make sense, right? I don't murder you. You don't murder me. That's just being a good human. I don't steal your stuff. You don't steal mine either, right?
Right.
That's being a good human. So
Mhm.
you don't have to be religious to understand these things, but obviously, me being a Christian, I put it forth in that perspective. Although there is a chapter in the book called Will Followers of Jesus Save America, which
Mm.
addresses this exactly about getting people off their damn couch and doing things that matter rather than online, blah, 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 online virtue signaling 24/7, but never actually getting off their butt and doing
Mhm.
something that would make a difference about what
Mm.
they're whining about. Right? They
Mhm.
whine, they moan, they complain, but they don't ever do anything constructive. They complain about the candidates we have out there to vote for, but they're not a party delegate. Like, I'm a GOP delegate, have been forever. And yeah, I've been fighting rhinos as hard as I have fascocrats, as I call them, my entire life. Because there's a lot of good Republicans, there's just not enough of us that are Constitutionalist based, based on the Bible, voting biblically.
Mhm. I mean, I get it. I agree. And that's the weirdest thing to me, I would say, even in the last voting system. Obviously, I think I started to pay more attention to politics and now that I'm become a mom, right? I became a mom in 2019. I mean, 2018. And, obviously stuff was going on, the elections, all this different type of stuff was going on. And I'm starting to pay attention more to everything. And it just was like, okay, I guess I feel like my eyes definitely started to open to a lot of the things, like, I guess, stuff going on behind the scenes, stuff that's being presented, the things that wasn't making sense, the things that started to make more sense once I got more information. Like, I feel like 2020 was that eye-opening moment for me. And the interesting thing was I would be listening to other believers, and it would be like we're on a completely different page. And I'm like, but you supposed to believe what I believe. like, so why are you,
Well,
why is
that's
there
that,
this disconnect,
and I go into that into the book. That's real Christians who take the whole Bible in context, as opposed to socialists, communists, fascocrats who believe in, like a Pelosi or a Biden. They will pick render unto Caesar out of context,
mm,
completely distort it. That's like the saying with Hillary Clinton, it takes a village. That's a good, sound biblical tenet in perspective, in context. That and render unto Caesar does not mean we are to be our brother's keeper. That is a personal commandment. That doesn't mean give it to the government to steal from Steve to give to Eve and pretend you've done something. You didn't. You didn't do a darn thing. You shall be known by your fruits. What are you sowing? If you allow others to sow rotten fruit, we're all stuck choking down that rotten fruit. What are
mm,
you sowing?
mm,
Actions. Actions, not words. I don't care what your rhetoric is, right? The path to hell is paved with good intentions, as they say, right? How many times
mm,
do we hear that saying? That's true. I don't care what you tell me your intentions are. What are the results, right? Matthew,
mm,
judge not lest ye be judged. A
mm,
lot of people love to take those first 7 words out of context. There's more
mhm.
to that scripture. And there's a
Yeah.
dozen other scriptures that say how indeed we are to judge biblically in
Mhm.
context and not be a hypocrite, not rules for you and different set of rules for me. No, judging biblically across the board and not being a hypocrite about it. So, yeah, that's where I go back to that. You take the whole Bible in context, not picking and choosing this, that, or the other thing, completely distorted out of context. Again, like it takes a village. like you said, you paying attention more now that you're a mother. And that's true of a lot of people when they become a parent. Look at the crap going on in our schools. Parental rights have been trampled upon. You know, we need more school choice. It takes a village, right? Your child, you may need a break at times. I may need to babysit for you, right? Your neighbors, your family, your friends, you know, your relatives. It takes that biblical village, not the fascist, federal, communist, socialist state to raise your child. That child is your child. It doesn't belong to the government.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I mean, you know, and that's why, you know, I'm still on the fence about even if we're gonna allow our kid to go to school because he just, I mean, well, one, he's 4, and I know we got to figure it out soon. But my thing is like, I've still been on the fence about it, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
And
I always say
I'm glad.
if you can homeschool, you should. I mean, with as out of control as these public schools are, if you can't afford a good private or charter school where they're more focused, and I go into this in the books, in the book, I call it the new R's. Remember, we used to have the core R's. Well, now the R's are radicalism, raunch, and racism. The CRT garbage. It's not helping prevent racism, it's stoking racism. Instead, we need to get back and send our children to schools where we teach reading, writing, arithmetic, history, there's an R in there, science, see what I did there? A lot of our kids are too dumb to know an R doesn't belong in science. So, virology, I did it again. You know, all these basic, we need to get back to the core R's, not the new R's of radicalism, raunch, and racism.
That's well.
Martin Luther King Jr., I swear, you know, I doubt his grave is there anymore. He's probably been spinning in his grave so much that we've gotten so much farther away from his dream than we have ever. We were getting closer and closer to colorblind and content of one's character, but that's all been turned on its head by identity politics now. I'm supposed to hate you because of your skin tone. Bull! Wrong! No! I will judge you based on the content of your character, not your skin tone.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I absolutely agree. And honestly, that made me think about what you were saying earlier about, you know, lumping people together or people wanting to lump together. And I feel like that's part of the issue, just lumping anyone in any regard. Like, stop just individual people. Can you, you know, get to know, like I say, I can get to know you today for you and get to know the next person for the next day for them. It's so funny. Like, I was telling my husband this, and maybe this has any something. It's just a random example, right? So, over the past few years, I've been in situations where I needed to like work with this person or that person, right? And I noticed that 2 times now, the same type of individual, things didn't pan out with the. And I say, okay, when I say type, I mean like they look similar, like similar hair, similar features. And so it's so funny. I met a third person now that I'm considering working with, and I'm like, this is the 3rd time in a row with a similar hair, similar features. See what I mean? And I'm like, I don't know. Is this gonna be good? Is it not gonna be good?
Right. You don't right. You want to judge based on character. You don't want to prejudge based on a look, whether it be skin tone, hair color, hairstyle. But no, I understand what you're saying, right? I mean, the saying, you know, like about all the perversion and the porn in the libraries. And I've had issue getting my book, Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You, into libraries. And indeed, I joke about it too. But, you know, I'm joking. You know, the Purple Hair Brigade, right? You know they are ultra-left activists, usually, but not always. Again, we cannot paint with that broad brush. I know several people with very odd colored hair that I love them to death. They're great people. They just happen to like odd colored hair. So you've got to indeed be careful. But stereotypes exist in part for a reason, though. I mean, if a majority of a certain class of whomever didn't fall into that category, it wouldn't exist. Although some of them, again, have been blown out of proportion and become too stereotypical, and everyone thinks that, again, because you're black, you must think and act a certain way. No, you are an individual, like in my Terror Strikes book. Let me read that part again. Individualism over collectivism.
I agree. Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier. I'm glad that I didn't take that mindset to be like, oh, this is the third person that looks like this. He might not be nobody good to work with because
well, it's okay to be. It's okay then to be suspicious, to have your guard up and be careful. You don't want to be blind and stupid, but you got to give people a chance, right? You gave that person a chance to break that stereotype.
Exactly. And that 3 different individuals don't know each other. You know what I mean? Like, so there's no way to be like, oh, but I just found it to be funny. I just like, wait, third.
No, it's a great example. It is. It really is. And again, it's part of human nature. That's what part of the problem is. And, as discussed in constitutionalist politics, those who want to keep us divided, right? Divide and conquer. Want me to only see you as a black woman and therefore must be suspicious of you or even hate you just because you're not a white straight male like me. I don't hate gay people. I have no problem with it, but I coined a couple of terms, and I've spoken with my gay friends. I have them. We love each other. We have no problem with each other. They know my position regarding traditional marriage and civil unions, protecting traditional marriage. They know where I'm coming from. It's not out of hate. It's not because I hate you. It has nothing to do with hate whatsoever. And but I coined the terms gaytivists, engaged in gaytivism. There's a whole different story between, like, I'll just use my friend Bill as an example. Obviously, I'm not going to give his last name, but Bill, gay man. We've known him our entire life. He and my sister met while they were in school together, became friends. We consider Bill as a gay man, and I only say that because of the left's insistence on identity politics. It matters not to me that he's gay because he just wants to be accepted and tolerated, which is different than a gaytivist engaging in gaytivism, which is usually just anti-Christianism in disguise. They hate people of faith, therefore they project that if you don't agree with forcing you to bake them a gay wedding cake, it's because you hate them. No.
I mean, yeah, I know Pastor David Lynn. I watch him online. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a pastor up in Canada. I guess he coined the phrase Christophobic.
No, exactly. Yeah.
It's like because people, for whatever reason, I know it's the narrative is that Christians hate and Christians are hypocrites and the Bible is whatever,
and
but then nobody.
Some, right? We can't paint with a broad brush. Not every Christian is good. Not every Christian, hence my book, not every Christian takes the Bible in context. They pick and choose, and they, and they will answer for that one day.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's my thing about the whole situation. I know I talked to a previous guest about this. Like, when you really get into the Bible for yourself, you see how, like, of an even playing field it is. Like at the end of the day, it's like all have sinned and fallen short. That means everybody outside of Christ. That
Nobody's
means I
perfect.
can't look down on you because I'm in the same boat. You know what I mean? And but and then even when I read like they're telling me that whoever comes to what John 3:16, and all this, it's like it's for everybody. It's not just from our group or me or you. This is an open gift that's available to everybody. Christ is available to everybody.
Yeah.
It's just I think people don't want to receive the gift. I think they're struggling. I don't think they're taking the time to read the Bible for themselves or any of that. I think people are listening to what other people say, or they just want to just do what they wanted to do, which is just all of us, honestly.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just one of those interesting things because, I mean, I know people go on and on about us and stuff. I'm like, well, you don't see nobody coming for no other faith the way people come for Christians. Like, until you show me that, then okay, then I might be like, okay, maybe it's just faith in general, but I don't see it. I don't see people coming for Buddha. I don't see people coming for Muhammad or anybody else the way that they come for Jesus.
Exactly.
And I think that should be a little clue as well. Like, why so hard for Jesus? It's nothing, But anyway.
And we are to love, but there comes a point that doesn't mean you continue to ram your head against the wall. Someone that is so hate-filled, we are to love and be tolerant. We are to judge, but Matthew really should say, instead of judge not lest ye be judged, we are to judge, as we've discussed. It really means, the bottom line, condemn not lest ye be condemned, for final judgment is reserved for the Lord. We are to love and tolerate as best we can, but there are red lines that can't be crossed, and sometimes you have to disassociate yourself from some people. Now, like you triggered in a good way, not triggered in a leftist, oh my God, you hurt my feelings sense, but you triggered a thought in me, because that's, again, emotional hysterics. Oh my God, you hurt my little feelings. Oh my, grow up, think. Right? There's no such thing as perfect. None of us are. I've made mistakes. I may make a mistake in the future. Hubris and pride is a sin. If I screw up, I then admit I made a mistake. That's part of the forgiveness process, right? But there's no such thing as perfect. I like to bring up, again, back to the book Christitutionalist Politics and Terror Strikes. Again, going back to that. Freedom over tyranny, right? The movie Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I am amazed Disney, as woke as they've been lately, let that movie come out. Because, and here, this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailer, so everyone will have seen this. Rocket says of the villain, he promised perfection, but he just hated things the way they are. And that's true of every communist, fascist, socialist, monarchist, all those on the left who want to be the ones who lord over the imperfection. They want to be the masters and us the slaves, right? It's not about this system or that system. It's whatever system allows them to have the power and control, right? No such thing as perfect. They promise perfect, but where have they ever delivered it? They haven't, because it doesn't exist. And America, not perfect, but better than virtually anything else.
I mean, yeah, that's one of the things where I think people, I mean, well, you hear I'm sure you probably heard every narrative you ever going to hear about, like, oh, well, we should leave, or X, Y, and Z, but then you think about,
they
like,
don't. They don't. They never leave, right? You don't like it? Get the hell out. I'll help raise money to send you to Cuba, or to Venezuela, or to Russia, or to China. Get the hell out. Either help or shut up and leave.
Oh, Lord. I know they say in the end time prophecies, America isn't there. What do you think
Oh
happened? Do you
wow,
think
that's
y'all? Do you think that we? Do you
that.
think that we all got raptured because everybody came to Christ, or do you think we just got destroyed?
Yeah, the rapture in itself, I don't like to get into end times too much. I like to hope that I'm not living through them, although a lot of people, but that's the thing. A lot of people can, I could declare my book an end time book and make money that way. It's not what I'm about. There's a lot of people, oh, we're in the end times. You got to buy my book to understand what, no, I'm not selling fear porn in any of my books. I'm selling hope and life over death, faith over despair in all my books. So the rapture is actually kind of a more within the last 100-year modern kind of phenomena that it's read into the Bible the way it is. Those 100+ years ago, if you were to go back in time and talk to our founding fathers who were religious, I get tired of the left saying, oh, the founders weren't really religious. They weren't Christians. They went around saying, no king but King Jesus. An atheist doesn't say that, moron, right? So yes, but if you were to go back and talk to George Washington or Ben Franklin or Thomas Jefferson about the rapture, they'd look at you like, huh? What are you talking about? That's a modern kind of phenomena. So I'm not entirely sure where I feel about that. Same thing with reincarnation, right? Is it Hinduism that believes in reincarnation? You know what? The Bible says we have one soul. It doesn't exclude the ability for a soul like Dante's Inferno, 7 layers of hell, that you go through several tribulations, maybe different physical presences before the soul actually does fully go to heaven. So I don't rule that out either. Again, I don't know everything, right? I'm just a human. And I hope certainly one day to have a chance to sit down and talk to Jesus about all these things. But God didn't owe us all these explanations. The Bible is a children's book. We are children. You don't tell children everything. It's like the thing about aliens, right? Nowhere in the Bible does it say, Genesis does not say, God created earth and life on earth, and only on earth life he created. It doesn't say that. So it doesn't preclude life elsewhere, right? So I'm not going to say it is or it isn't true, it is or it isn't happening. I don't know. God doesn't owe me that explanation. But in a sense, God has told me to some degree. What about Ezekiel? What about Enoch? Those things, right? We can't fully explain those. So I don't rule any of that in. I don't rule any of it out. I stick with what I know that is about being biblical and good to each other, actually helping each other, not this let the government steal from Steve and give to Eve and pretend I care. No, It's up to me to care and actually do things that help others, not pretend I help, not say I want to help. What have I done? Again, shall be known by fruits, not your words. But yeah, like the rapture, again, back to that, I got off on a tangent there. So yeah, I don't believe it, disbelieve it. I'm not worried about it. What's going to happen is going to happen. But from a tactical standpoint, why would God lift all his soldiers from the planet at the time he needs soldiers to fight for him? So in that sense, the rapture doesn't quite make sense. But as a signal that we are in end times and things are happening, that's a powerful symbol to lift people, like the Left Behind movie series and books, right? So I could see the pro and the con.
No, I understand, yeah, and I think, well, that's wisdom, right? To say you don't know. I think that's a very wise thing to say. You know, there is
Well,
a lot of
I don't profess to talk for Jesus or God. You know, I don't know everything. If I knew everything, you know, I'd be probably selling a whole different kind of book.
right, right. I get it, man. Yeah, there is a lot that can like seem to be not explained or we don't know and everything like that. But on the flip side, it's just like, you know, there is a lot that the Bible does share and tell us. And regardless, like that's, I guess it's just confusing to me why, you know, we're in this place as believers where, you know, there's this great commission to get out there and make disciples and X, Y, and Z. And however, you know, I feel like God gives us so many different gifts that there's all kinds of ways that you could do it, right? But here we are struggling, right, to even, you know, share in our own home or hometown versus trying to, you know, disciple the whole world and everything like we were supposed to be doing and things. And so, I don't know, we can go on and on, I'm sure, about all the different aspects of life and everything. But I mean, I think you pretty much shared with us. I mean, all the books, you're pretty much your inspiration behind, or I seem to have gathered your inspiration for each one and things of that nature. And so, I mean, what can we look out for when it comes to you and the rest of your endeavors? Is there anything we need
Well,
to
yeah,
know?
I'm like Constitutionalist Politics came out this year because it's in conjunction with my Constitutionalist Politics podcast. It drops
Mm,
every Saturday. You can find it on Buzzsprout, is where it's actually housed. Saturday mornings by noon, you can find Constitutionalist Politics podcast on Buzzsprout. You can find it eventually on Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, 14 different platforms. But of course, it takes time to filter out to that. So if you go to Buzzsprout, you can find Constitutionalist Politics every Saturday. And that book came out to kind of complement the podcast, and the podcast complements the book. And it's all in about, again, changing that paradigm, getting us as Christians on the same page, and we're never going to agree on everything. But come together on those things we can agree on, like protecting children and properly educating children rather than perverting grade school children's minds with porn. There's, you know, we're not talking about banning books, we're talking about age appropriateness. You cannot take a child to see 50 Shades of Grey at the theater. There are laws against it. The same should hold true with the books in our libraries, right?
mm,
Parental rights, things we can agree on, we should come together. Like now, this agreement thing, right? Uh, you're married. I'm divorced. I still wear my ring. I married one time. Was only going to be married one time. Uh, do you ever disagree with your spouse? Of course you do, right? Right?
yeah,
Have,
yeah.
let me talk to the audience. A rhetorical question. Have you not ever changed your mind on something, even trivial, at some point in your life? Now, unless if you're a delusional nutcase, you've changed your mind probably on something or another because you start as a child, you learn, you grow, you gain wisdom. Sometimes your mind changes on something or another, right? So we don't agree with ourselves 100% of the time. So why in the hell are you expecting and demanding I agree with you 100% of the time on X, Y, and Z? It's not going to happen. But come together as Christians on those things we do agree with and can work together on, and just agree to disagree, and avoid those topics, the things we don't agree, right? But and that's the setup. Then I hope to have a Constitutionalist Politics 2 book next year, again, as we go into the election, to try to make people think, vote biblically, right? The Bible says your heart will lead you astray. Put aside the emotional hysterics. Use your bleeping head. It's there for a reason. You have a brain. Use it. Read the Bible with your brain and understand the entire context, not the picking and choosing of things like the render under Caesar out of context. Romans, there's a whole chapter there, right? You've got to take the whole Bible in context.
I absolutely agree. I know I can sit here and talk to you all day because I mean, when we think about quite a few things to keep this conversation going, but I don't want to prolong your time. Where can our people find, I know you told us about the podcast already, but how can they find you, your books?
Oh, yeah, and I'm glad you said that because I was going to forget. I created a promo code, GSL, for your show, right? Obviously. So you can go to terrorstrikes.info/shop and buy any one, two, or all three at a discount using promo code GSL at terrorstrikes.info/shop. That's only open to U.S. residents because shipping outside the U.S. is too expensive. It would cost more than the book to send it to you. But you can get an autographed copy of any one or all three of my books there at a discount using GSL. I also have an author site, josephmleonard.us. And again, it looks like Leonard. It's not French. It's actually Polish somehow. Leonard without an O, josephmleonard.us. And there's, of course, a contact tab. Either of those sites, feel free to reach out to me if you want.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you and your time. We definitely got to come, have you come back next time we have one of those Christian and politics conversations. I feel like you got a lot of things to add to the conversation. But yeah, I appreciate you and your time, and thank you so much for doing that.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Thank you. Take care. God bless.
So much for watching the GSL Talk Show, and thank you to Mr. Joseph for joining us tonight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and check him out in his endeavors. Have a good night.